I'm celebrating the first April that I am a sexual assault survivor and not a victim of sexual assault.
First, I would like to welcome Reverend Beth McCall to make opening remarks.
Good evening and welcome. Welcome to Southminster Presbyterian Church and welcome to Shadows Ignited. We are a very joyful church, and I think part of the reason we are joyful is that we are willing to have hard conversations and look at things that can make faith difficult and be challenging. That's why we host Shadows Ignited, because this particular type of truth-telling is very important to us. We hope that you are inspired and touched and even entertained a little bit by what you see and experience here tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Beth. Good evening. I'm Greta McLean, founder and executive director of Silent No Longer Tennessee, and I welcome all of you to our 5th annual Shadows Ignited event. Over the past 5 years, Silent No Longer has served 10,210 members of our community and provided therapeutic creative expression programs, advocacy, and referral services to 1,586 individual clients. During that same period, I've had the honor of watching those clients blossom as they use art, whether it's written word or visual art, into strong and confident individuals who refuse to hide in the shadows, finding their voice, and now sharing their stories. This year, in honor of our 5th anniversary, we have also chosen to highlight some visual art created by some of our clients. You may have noticed some of them outside. Each piece was created, again, by one of our clients and are available for sale if anyone is interested. Clients will receive 70% of the profits, and Silent No Longer will receive 30% to help fund our therapeutic creative expression program. Also, just a safety precaution, if anyone is triggered during the event and would like to speak to someone, Lisa, could you raise your hand, please? You can just walk by, look at her in the eye, come by, tap her on the shoulder, and she is more than happy to assist you. And now it is my great honor to introduce our MC and performer for this evening, Sean Witzel.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sean Witzel. I'm excited to be with you today for Shadows Ignited 2026. Can we have another round of applause for that? Yes, indeed. So let's get this show on the road. So please join me in welcoming our first performers of the evening, Allison Blackwell, Ryan Duplessis, and Marlene Hall, who will perform Why We March.
We march because our mothers were told they could not.
We march because they whispered their dreams and their nightmares into the wind, afraid they would be laughed at.
We march for the girls who have been told that their voices do not matter.
We march for the women who are told they are too much, too loud, too bold, too hungry for justice.
We march because history forgets us or relentlessly tries to erase us.
And we march because our daughters and girls around the world are watching us.
And when those in power attempt to silence us,
Tell us we are exaggerating or lying.
We call out a small portion of the names of courageous women who sacrificed themselves in the pursuit of justice.
Anna Mae Aquash,
Julia Baker,
Miriam Carey,
Mary Clark,
Renee Good,
Charlotte Harris,
Heather Heyer,
Riley Lewis,
Viola Liuzzo,
Amber Miner,
Catherine Hahn Montoya,
Harriet Moore,
Laura Nelson,
Mary Pillsbury,
Megan Savannah,
Summer Taylor,
Mary Turner,
Melissa Williams,
Henria Williams,
Eliza Woods,
and we recognize Alex Jeffrey Preddy, the courageous man who was shot and killed assisting a woman thrown to the ground by ICE officers.
And when they ask us why we refuse to remain silent, we will say,
because the world only bends towards justice when we speak, push back, and show up. March!
We will now welcome Ryan Duplessis, who will perform the monologue, The Once Unspoken Whisper.
The Once Unspoken Whisper by K.A. There was a time when my world was silent, a suffocating, crushing silence, born from a scream that never quite escaped my lips. I lived in the shadows of something unspeakable, carrying a weight that felt too heavy for one person to bear. Every breath felt like a question. Could I ever be whole again? Could I ever feel truly safe? For too long, the answer felt like an empathetic, echoing no. I was a ghost in my own life, haunted by a memory, a betrayal. The world outside seemed bright and loud, full of life, but inside me, it was nothing but darkness and the constant whisper of shame. I built walls, not to keep others out, but to keep the truth in. Convinced that if I ever broke free, it would shatter me completely. But then, a flicker. A tiny, defiant flicker in the vast consuming darkness. It wasn't a sudden burst of light, more like a stubborn ember refusing to die deep within me. That ember became my courage, buried under layers of fear and pain, but still undeniably there. It whispered,
Your voice matters. Your truth matters. You are more than this moment.
the first step towards speaking was terrifying. It felt like walking into a storm, naked and confused, exposed, inviting the elements to tear me apart. But I took it in. I found the words, halting and shaky at first, then stronger, clearer. Speaking my truth wasn't just about what happened to me. It was about reclaiming what was mine. my body, my mind, my story. It was about looking injustice squarely in the eye and saying with every fiber of my being, no more. Not to me and not to anyone else. That single act of speaking, that one brave breath, shattered the silence. Not just for me, but for the possibility of breaking it for others. Because I realized my healing wasn't just personal. It became a responsibility. Every scar is a testament to survival. And every survivor has a story that can light the way for someone else trapped in the dark. So, I speak. I advocate. I stand with those whose voices are still trembling, whose hearts are still healing. I remind them that they are not alone, that their pain is valid, their strength is undeniable, and their future is theirs to reclaim. To anyone who feels unseen, unheard, broken, know this: you are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by your resilience, by your choice to rise, by the unwavering power of your truth. Find your flicker. Nurture it. Let it grow into a roaring flame. Speak your truth. Whisper it. Declare it. Let it shout from the rooftops if you must. Because your voice, your story, your courage, it is not just for you. It is for all of us. And together, in our collective truth, we will ignite change.
Thank you, Ryan. Coming up next, we have Kathy Halbrooks, who will read the poem Echoes.
I'm honored to be reading this poem, and it's by Anonymous. The echoes of that night still claw at my throat, a phantom grip. I scrape at it with raw hands, anxious and hungry for air, while it coils in the darkness. I stand ready to strike, to defend myself from the chorus of accusations. It's a chorus that draws me into other people's lives, but they do not see the furnace under my skin, the slow, stubborn heat, fed by every ember of what I endured. Beneath the ashes, a healing power lives. This power is not weak, nor is it brittle. It is alive, serving as my shield, a weapon I have learned to carry. It is a low, gathering roar that swallows the echoes of their whispers. It is a rising gale, a furious wind that cleanses small violences they dare to call truth. With every breath it grows, reshaping the hollow places into armaments, a pulse that will not be silenced, and a light that will not be smothered. They tried to put out my fire. They thought the cinders would be small and grow cold. Instead, their hands forged me. I am harder, I am stronger now than I've ever believed possible. I am now steel, tempered by grief and heat. I am a blade honed on the whetstone of survival. I refuse the neat, polite label they hand me. I am not the broken thing in their stories. I am the one who rose, the one who stitched the raw edges of myself into armor, who learned the geometry of my own heart and how to aim its force. I will turn their darkness into fuel. Every insult, every smallness they offered becomes kindling. I will press my pain into a kind of power that moves like thunder, that turns into a powerful wave, like a slow, inevitable unmaking of anything that would keep me small. And when they hear me, when the syllables of my name fall from their lips, they shake the room. Let them feel the trembling of the shadows they cast. I will stand luminous, victorious, and unashamed. I am a survivor who carries her history like a flag, who owes nothing to their pity, their doubts, or their accusations. And I will not be quiet until every last shadow that touched me trembles at the sound of my name.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Let's welcome back to the stage Marlene Hall as she performs Not His Storm.
Not His Storm by Anonymous 11. I memorized the weight of his moods the way some people memorize scripture or song lyrics or the rhythm of their own heartbeat. I studied him the way farmers study the sky for storms, searching for patterns, for warnings, for anything that might help me survive what was coming. A slammed door meant thunder. Ice clinking in his glass meant lightning. A fist pounding the kitchen table meant a hailstorm of fists pounding into my body. I learned quickly, I had to. I learned to read danger in the angle of his jaw, in the way his silence thickened the air until breathing felt like a betrayal. I watched the pacing back and forth, like a predator measuring distance. I watched his hands, clenched fists, tight enough to hold all the anger he refused to name. And I knew, I always knew, when the storm would break. The neighbors heard nothing, not a thing. Drywall and firewalls are loyal to fists. Carpet swallows evidence. Night keeps its contracts, and I kept mine. I wore long sleeves in July, high collars in the heat. Fabric became my shield, my disguise, and my silence. I bruise easily, I said. I'm clumsy, I laughed. And sometimes I just said nothing at all, because silence was safer than the truth. And truth had consequences. Pain wasn't dramatic, not like in the movies. No swelling music, no heroic escape. Pain was practical. It reminded me to move carefully, to step lightly, to speak less, to shrink smaller. It trained me to become invisible inside my own life. Every day I told myself, maybe today will be different. Maybe today he won't come home angry. Maybe today I won't have to measure the distance between myself and the nearest exit. Maybe today, maybe, I will not have to survive. But hope became its own kind of bruise. Because every time it rose, it was struck down just as quickly. And shame never left. It sat beside me at church, whispering louder than the sermon. It rode shotgun in the car, closer than any friend. It brushed my teeth with my tears at night and leaned in close to say, "This is what you deserve." And I believed it. I believed I was the reason for his anger, for his hands, for the storm. I thought if I could just be quieter, better, smaller, smarter, he might stop. But the storms don't stop because the sky asks nicely. Storms don't apologize, and neither did he. Then that night came. The night everything changed. His fist cracked the wall. Not me, not yet, but the wall. Plaster fell uselessly to the floor like something trying to surrender. And I noticed something strange, something I didn't expect. This time, I didn't cringe. I didn't cry. I didn't shrink. His rage grew louder, but my fear disappeared. And in its place, something else rose. My heart, loud, fierce, unapologetic, beating against my ribs, not like it was begging, but like it was knocking, demanding, alive in a way I haven't felt in years. And for the first time, I listened. I opened the door, not because I was fearless, not because the bruises had faded, not because the world suddenly became kind. I opened the door because I believed death was better than living like this. That's the truth people don't like to hear. Freedom didn't come wrapped in courage. It came wrapped in desperation, in the quiet realization that something had to end, either this life or the one I was living inside it. So I stood there, still, unmoving, looking straight into his eyes. And he stared back. But this time, he didn't move because something had shifted, not in him, in me. And in that silence, a voice rose, small, stubborn, and steady. A voice I didn't recognize at first, but it was mine. It said, "You are not his storm." It said, "You are the sky. You are the sky wide enough to hold thunder without becoming it. You are the sun, even when hidden. You are the moon, even when unseen. You are the stars, still burning bright, even in the darkest night." And that voice, that quiet, defiant voice, was right. I deserve better. Not someday, not if I earned it, not if I became someone else. I deserve better because I existed, because I was still breathing, because I was still here. So I left, not perfectly, not easily, not all at once, but I left. Piece by piece, step by step, breath by breath, I left the silence. I left the lies. I left the version of myself that believed survival was the same as living. And now I know what love looks like. It doesn't slam the doors. It doesn't bruise. It doesn't demand silence. Love listens. Love protects. Love stays gentle even when life is not. And most importantly, love begins with me. I am no longer a prisoner of my past. I am no longer defined by what was done to me. I am not the storm I survived. I am the sky that outlasted it. I am the architect of my new life, And for the first time, the first real time, I am free.
All right. Thank you, Marlene. We will now welcome Greta McLean as she performs The Advocate.
You tell yourself you built a wall, a professional one that's solid, clinical, and clean, a wall that's thick and soundproof enough to muffle out the echoes, smooth enough to look unblemished, with a neat little door that you can lock at 5 o'clock right before you drive home and pretend to leave the day behind. You listen to and absorb the stories as you draft safety plans, blueprints for survival, both for the client and for you. You hold the hand shaking with terror and rage as you speak in calm, measured tones, telling yourself, this isn't my story. I'm just a vessel. I'm just their guide. But the stories, they're like water. They seep through the mortar, finding the tiny, invisible little hairline cracks you didn't even know you had. They settle deep and pool beneath the surface. And by the time you notice them, the foundation has already begun to erode. The world feels different. It has sharper edges. I can't watch a movie or a television show with a man raising his hand towards a woman or forcing himself on a woman without my shoulders tension as my hands clench in a fist. I can't walk through a crowded bar without cataloging all the exits, watching intently to make sure the bartender or someone else sitting next to a woman isn't covertly putting something into her drink. And then there is the woman who described the tiles in her kitchen backsplash in such great detail to try to stay tethered to something real, something safe, something unassuming. The young college student who said her father's love came with a clenched fist. They all follow me. They breathe through me. And when a friend jokes about her partner leaving his socks on the floor, I have to press my tongue against my teeth so hard it hurts. Because all I want to do is shake her and scream at the top of my lungs, do you know how lucky you are? And make her see the sheer, fragile miracle of safety. And the ghosts. The ghosts, they don't leave when the file is closed. I carry them with me. They're in my car on the drive home. It isolates you. You live in a world that most people refuse to see. And once you've seen it, there's never a way to unsee it. You learn that hope isn't a feeling. It's a discipline. It's the exhausting, conscious act of showing up the next day, picking up the phone, and believing against all the evidence that you've collected that you can help build a wall for someone else. even as your own foundation continues to absorb the flood into the cracks of your fragile facade.
All right. I want to welcome Kathy Halbrooks back to the stage. She will be performing Becoming the Light.
And again, I'm honored to be performing this, and it's Becoming the Light by G. I once walked through the world with an easy, ordinary grace, a quiet strength tucked behind my smile, a softness that let me believe people were better than their shadows. But one night, without warning, the world cracked open beneath my feet. Hands that should never have touched me took what was not theirs to take. And in an instant, I was left breathless, shaking, a stranger inside my own body. Afterward, I folded into myself like a wounded bird, wings trembling, my voice barely a whisper. I carried questions no one could answer, shame that was never mine to hold, and a fear that clung like smoke to everything I breathed. People told me time would heal, but time does not stitch wounds. Courage does. And courage, I learned, is born the moment you decide you deserve more than the harm done to you. So one morning, with tears still drying on my skin, I made a choice I never imagined making. I chose to rise. Not in a single triumphant moment, but through the slow, quiet rebuilding of a woman refusing to disappear. My voice, once so small, became a thread I pulled back into my hands. My story, once locked deep inside, became my compass. My scars, once evidence of violence, became evidence of survival. The day I spoke my truth aloud, the day I refused to carry the weight of someone else's sin, something shifted in the world. My whisper reached another, and then another, until what began as a single voice grew into a gathering of strength like a storm forming on the horizon. I found other survivors trembling in the dark, others who believed they were alone, others who carried silence like chains. I lifted a lantern above my head, not to lead them, but to help them see they still had light of their own. I sat with those who could not speak, held space for their unspoken stories, and walked beside those whose knees buckled under memory. I told them gently, "You're not what was done to you. You're what you choose next." For the woman I once was, I became the advocate I never had. For the woman I still am, I became grace. For a world that tried to break me, I became unbreakable. People ask me how I carry such heavy stories, how I stand before the wounded without collapsing under my own pain. This is my answer. My suffering will not have the final word. If I survive the fire, then I will help others walk through their own fire. If I must carry these scars, then let them be maps. Let them lead someone else home. There are days when my body still remembers what I wish it could forget. Days when shadows rise without warning, when my breath shortens, when healing feels like climbing uphill in the rain. But even then, I reach out my hand to someone drowning in their own storm and whisper, "Hold on. I've been where you are. You will make it through this." So my story, born from violence, reshaped by resilience, has become a lifeline, a rallying cry, a promise carved from truth and fire. I am one woman, yes, but in rising, I have become 1,000 torches lit by every survivor I have touched. My pain became purpose, my trauma became testimony, my silence became strength. And my voice, steady, brave, unyielding, has become the anthem, a movement refusing to let darkness win. I walked through the night, and I chose again and again to become the light.
All right, I'm going to welcome Marlene Hall back to the stage to perform The Broken Badge.
I'm honored to recite this poem for you, and it's prefaced by the author in this way. I wrote this poem shortly after I left the police department in 2000, after serving as a detective in the adult sexual assault unit for 2 years. And now I recite for you The Broken Badge. Questioning and judgment, blaming and shaming, complete disregard for the humanity and the value of every living soul, someone who meets the criteria for a check mark in a box on a cold, impersonal form. This was the unofficial, unwritten, and unspoken standard operating procedure. The rationalization? She's black, you know how they lie. She's a crackhead, angry because she didn't get paid. He's a faggot in a dress. What did he expect? Uncaring and unprofessional, but sadly, not the worst. The admission, she said no, but she went into his bedroom. She said no, but she let him take off her blouse. She said no, but close the case. And there was the callousness of a disgusting little jingle, one created by those who swore to protect and serve, a jingle that echoes through the office, through the Sexual Assault Investigations Office. Lying crack whore, and I don't care. Lying crack whore, and I don't care. She's just a lying whore. But attitudes drastically change if the victim appears affluent, well-educated, articulate, and if the victim is white, implicit or explicit, it doesn't really matter. Bias is bias, cruelty is cruelty, wrong is wrong, and injustice is injustice. Blinded by stereotypes and antiquated views, they are oblivious to their cruelty and their lack of humanity, oblivious to the betrayal, to their oath, to their complicity, and the damage they inflict. Uncaring or unfeeling, perhaps both. The reason is irrelevant, inexcusable either way, and then it happens. Another crack appears in a fragile badge, a badge that has become varnished as the venom of callousness eats away all that should be valued: integrity and professionalism, dignity and compassion. The erosion of trust begins to destroy their moral foundation, their humanity. Not to mention the people they have sworn to protect and serve before finally slowly destroying the institution itself. Epilogue. On average, a woman is raped in the U.S. every 78 seconds. In the time it took me to read this monologue, at least 4 women were raped in this country.
It is now my great honor to welcome Sean Witzel to perform Helpless.
Helpless by R.C. I sat helpless as I watched the woman I love slowly fade away, consumed by a stubborn darkness that refused to release its grip. She wandered aimlessly through the house without speaking a word. Her eyes steadily grew more hollow, and as if she was nothing more than a wind-up toy, moving about on autopilot, more like a robot than a human being. No matter what I said, no matter how many times I told her, it wasn't your fault. You did nothing to cause this. I'm here for you. I still love you. Please don't shut me out. Nothing changed. No response, no touch, no words, no fleeting glance. Just an emptiness she couldn't escape from. I began going to a therapist, hoping beyond hope, pleading I would learn how to help her, praying there was some type of magic wand, something that would expose a small crack. I tried everything, but nothing seemed to reach her. Nothing rattled her while the helplessness I felt was overwhelming. 1,000-pound weight of despair, sitting unmovable on my chest. Then my darkest fear became my new reality. When I walked through the door, she wasn't curled up on the couch the way she was every other day I came home. This day, she was nowhere to be found. Not in the bedroom, not in the kitchen, not in the bedroom or the bathroom. Panic quickly set in. Did she leave me? But her clothes and makeup, everything was still where it had always been. The basement. She must be in the basement. Running down the stairs, turning the corner, and then I saw her lifeless body on the floor. An empty bottle of antidepressants laying beside her. I held her, sobbing, cursing, praying in vain. And just like that, her world became my world. And like her, I don't know how to dig out of this hole either. Thank you. All right. Joining me, I want to welcome back Allison Blackwell, who will perform Before It's Too Late.
This is Before It's Too Late by LV. She said his heart had stopped. Those were the words, calm, clinical, as if she were telling me the weather. The fetal heartbeat is no longer detectable. I remember nodding, because that's what polite people do when they receive information. even when the information shatters something holy inside them. I wanted to scream that I already knew. I knew the moments the kicks went quiet. I knew in the long nights when my body kept acting like it was carrying life, while my spirit was already grieving death. But then came the next sentence, the one that still doesn't make sense. We can't intervene. They told me my baby is gone, but my body must continue. Continue to carry what is no longer living. Continue to swell, to ache, to bleed in ways that make the monitors start chirping like nervous birds. Continue while infection creeps closer, while my blood pressure spikes, while words like sepsis and organ failure get whispered just outside the door. I am dying slowly, politely, in a hospital bed. I ask them, quietly at first and then louder, then through tears that soak the gown, if my baby is dead, what exactly are you protecting? They don't answer me. They talk to each other instead. They talk about policies and laws and what we're allowed to do. Allowed. As if my life is a permission slip someone forgot to sign. I want them to look at me, not my chart, not the ultrasound, not the rule book, but me. I am still here. I am still breathing. I have a name. I have people who love me. I have a child's room painted at home that will never be used, and somehow I am expected to sacrifice myself to prove something abstract, something cold, something written far away by people who will never know my face. I loved my baby. My goodness, I loved my baby. I picked out names, I talked to my belly in the grocery store, I imagined first steps and scraped knees and birthday candles. Don't you dare tell me this suffering honors that love. Love does not demand my death as proof. Every hour they wait, my body becomes more dangerous to live in. My fever rises, my hands shake, and still they hesitate. Still they say, we need to wait. Wait for what? For my organs to fail? For my heart to give out too? I am not asking to end a life. That life has already ended. And my heart is breaking because of it. I am asking you to save me, to save the one that remains. If I die here, they will write a careful report. They will say complications occurred. They will say their hands were tied. But I need someone to untie them now, while my voice can still carry across this room. I am a woman whose child has died. I am a woman who is still alive. And I am begging you, see the difference before it's too late.
All right. I want to welcome to the stage Martha McCall to perform I Wish.
I wish I knew how to make this stop hurting you. I keep searching for the right words, something strong enough to hold you together tonight. But everything I say feels small compared to what you've been through. I hate that I couldn't protect you. I hate that someone chose to bring that kind of darkness into your life. If I could take even a piece of this pain from you and carry it myself, myself, I would do it without thinking. You didn't deserve this. None of this was your fault. Not a single moment of it. I know I can't undo what happened. And that's the part that makes me feel so helpless. But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to be strong right now. You don't have to pretend you're okay to me or to anyone else. If you want to cry, I'll sit with you. If you want silence, I'll sit in that too. If you want to scream, I'll listen. Whatever you need, however long it takes, I will be here beside you. You are still the same woman I love. What happened to you does not take away your strength. It does not diminish your dignity, and it doesn't dim the light that has always lived inside you. And until you can feel that again yourself, I'll keep reminding you.
Right. It's my honor to welcome Bethany Reynolds to perform the original song, Finally Heard.
Just a quick note, the song is actually called Rising from Ashes. We had to switch a few things up. There's no track on this. In the silence, I held my breath, walking in the shadows, contemplating death. But in the darkest of my despair, a powerful spark began to ignite. They tell me how my truth don't make a scene. The truth is too loud, I can't speak its name. But every bruise and every tear became my calling, a story that I had to tell. I'm no longer broken, my strength has been found. Rising from ashes, I'm shedding the shame. No more hiding, no more fear. We are many, we're united as one. I wore my shame like a second skin, learned to hide my truth deep within. But my silence could never keep me safe. It only deepened my source of pain. I'm no longer broken, my strength has been found. Rising from ashes, I'm shedding the shame. No more hiding, no more fear. We are many, we're united as one. We are the daughters found. Rising from ashes, I'm shedding the shame. No more hiding, no more fear. We are many, we're united as one. So let the world hear our battle cry. We're not afraid to testify. From whispered pain to the battle drums, we roar, we rise, we overcome. We stand as one. We stand as one. We stand as one.
Beautiful song. Thank you, Bethany. This is a last minute change, so it's different from your program, but I'm going to welcome back to the stage Kathy Halbrooks, who will perform Beyond the Silence.
I appreciate being able to read Rise Beyond the Silence by Anonymous 17. I carry a storm inside my chest, a thunder that once shattered my world, a silence so loud it screamed my name, but today I choose to speak. Not in whispers, not in shame, but in the roar of 1,000 heartbeats rising. They tried to break me, hands like shadows, words like chains. But I am not the story they wrote for me, not the fear they tried to kill me with, because this is my story, not theirs. I am the author of my own new dawn. These wounds, these scars are not a mark of weakness. They are a map of battles fought and won. A testament to nights spent in darkness, climbing, clawing, begging, finding the grit to stand on broken legs. You see, courage isn't silence. It's the voice that shatters silence. The fire that refuses to be doused, the strength to face the mirror, even when the reflection aches. I am more than the fear that they tried to cage me in, more than the lies that whispered I was less. I am the phoenix, burned, broken, but rising. Wings spread wide with scars that shine like armor. Every tear I cried watered the roots of a strength I never dreamed I had. And now I bloom, not in spite of my trauma, but because I dared to confront it, to wrestle with the shadows, to declare with every breath, I am here, I am whole, I am unbreakable. So listen to all the voices that refuse to be silenced, to the warriors who stand tall in the ashes of pain and fear. Bear witness to the power that lives inside every survivor's soul, because courage is not just about surviving. It's about rising beyond what you ever thought could be possible.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathy. Coming back to the stage, let's welcome Ryan Duplessis, who will perform Because I Am a Woman.
Because I am a woman, society has handed me a script that I refuse to read. They tell me my passion is hysteria, that expressing my truth makes me deranged. They attempt to legislate my body, treating me not as a vessel, but as public territory, subject to their opinions and their control. Ugh, this chilling disregard for my autonomy plants a seed of fear in my heart. A fear that trembles not just for myself, but for the future of my daughter. For every girl born into a world where injustice reigns, where remain silent is the only accepted norm. But the very label they use to confine me becomes the source of my unbreakable strength. Because I am a woman, I refuse to be a victim of their chosen narrative. Instead, I choose to transform my fear into fuel and my anger into action. I will raise my voice until it becomes a loud and unending roar, a roar that shatters the suffocating silence of complacency. I will relentlessly fight against every shade of injustice. My work is not done until the world is not just safer, but until it is truly just. So I fight for a world where every girl can grow up assured, knowing her body is her own sovereign and sacred ground, and I will not rest until violence against women is nothing but a relic, until it's a mere footnote of a dark and distant past.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm excited to welcome to the stage Sharondia Sullivan, who will perform I Hated Purple.
I hated purple. Not the kind of hate kids talk about when they say they hate vegetables or bedtime. Mine was different. Mine was the kind that made my stomach twist when I saw my mother buy me a new shirt. Because when I was 9, purple stopped being a color. Before that, purple was normal. It was the marker I used when the red one dried out. It was the grape now and later candies that I ate. It was my favorite purple short set with my purple jelly shoes. Purple was safe. Then one day it wasn't. People say that when something terrible happens, everything changes. But that's not exactly true. The strange thing is everything looks the same. The same house, the same people, the same kids you've played with. But inside you, nothing is the same anymore. When you're 9, people think you don't understand things. They whisper in other rooms like you can't hear them. But kids notice everything. The way your mom voice shakes when she talks on the phone, the way teachers look at you with those careful smiles, the way people suddenly say things like, "Be strong. It wasn't your fault." I didn't feel strong. I felt small. And everywhere I looked, there was purple. Bruises turn purple before they fade. Even the sky sometimes turns purple before it goes dark. So I decided something. I decided purple was the enemy. I pushed purple crayons to the bottom of the box. I hid purple shirts in the back of my closet. I refused grape popsicles. Because when you're 9, You think if you can control the small things, the big things might stop hurting. But memories don't listen to rules. They show up in dreams. They hide in quiet rooms. They live in the way your heart races when someone stands too close behind you. For a long time, purple meant the worst day of my life. But here's something no one tells you about surviving. It's not loud. It doesn't look like the movies where someone stands up and shouts and conquers everything. Real surviving is quieter. It's getting out of bed when you don't want to. It's learning how to forget. Learning how to breathe when your chest forgets how. It's trusting people again, like telling your mama at 14. Surviving is living in a world that looks exactly the same, even though you're completely different. I'm older now, and somewhere along the way, purple changed again. Not all at once. First it was a flower I didn't turn away from. Then a sunset I actually watched instead of hiding. Then my sister gave me a purple shirt, and I realized I didn't hate it. That's when I understood something the 9-year-old version of me couldn't. Purple never belonged to what happened. It never did. Purple belongs to lavender fields and evening skies, to painting and wildflowers, to evening gowns with purple accented jewelry. So now when I see purple, I don't think the worst thing that ever happened to me. I think about the little girl who thought the world had ended. And I think about the fact that she survived it. She kept breathing, she kept growing, she kept going. And sometimes when the sunset turns the whole sky purple, I remember that someone tried to end my story, but they didn't, because I'm still here and my story keeps going. Thank you.
It is now our honor to welcome Beth McCall to perform Freshman Orientation.
It's my honor to share with you Freshman Orientation by Lynn. I didn't expect anyone to sit next to me. Freshman Orientation, those huge, impersonal lecture halls filled with nervous people pretending not to be. I picked a seat at the end of a row, invisible, safe, and then he sat down next to me. I remember because he smiled. Not the kind of smile that makes you look away, but the kind that makes you feel seen. He asked me my name. I almost didn't answer. I'm horribly shy, terrified of talking to strangers, but I did answer. And when he said mine back to me, like he was tasting it, trying it on, man, that felt real. We ran into each other a few times after that. Once outside the library, again at the dining hall. And then, of course, Sociology 101. Same class, same section. He sat next to me. Every time. He made it easy to talk, which isn't easy for me. And then one day he asked, come to this party with me? And I said yes. I never, ever say yes. The house smelled like beer and sweat. Music pounded against my ribs. He stayed close, a hand on the small of my back, protective. That's how it felt. Like he wanted me there, like I was wanted. Someone handed me a drink, and then another. I remember laughing, but I don't remember the joke. I remember standing, but then I wasn't. The room blurred. The sound stretched like gum stuck to the pavement. I said something, at least I think I did. My tongue felt so heavy and like it was way too big for my mouth. And then his hands where they shouldn't be. I tried to pull away and stumbled. His voice was soft and soothing. It's fine, I got you. Don't worry, you're safe with me. I wanted to leave. My brain screamed, run, run. But my body, it refused to listen. I couldn't move. I tried. I swear I tried. When I woke up, he was lying next to me, his arm draped over me like we were lovers, like it was normal, like I'd wanted this. I spent the next day trying to fit myself into the story I thought he would tell, trying to make it make sense. Did I drink too much? Did I lead him on? Did I say no? Did I even get the chance to say no? It wasn't until later, much, much later, that I let myself name it. And when I did, when I said the words out loud, they made everything real. Too real. Sufficiently real. I wish I'd never answered him.
Thank you, Beth. Coming back to the stage, we have Allison Blackwell, who will perform I Said It Out Loud.
Thank you. This is I Said It Out Loud by K.E. I said it out loud. I didn't plan to, it just happened. For a long time, my story lived in fragments, the way I avoided certain streets, the way I would flinch when someone stood too close, and the way my silence became a second language. I told myself it was easier that way. It was safer, cleaner, safely contained. I thought that if I didn't say it out loud, then maybe it didn't have to be real. But trauma doesn't disappear just because it's quiet. It echoes throughout the silence. It waits. It settles into your bones and speaks in ways you don't always recognize. For me, it sounded like doubt. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it was my fault. That's the thing about what happened. It didn't just take a moment from me. It tried to take my voice. And for a while, it did. I became smaller, much quieter, and overly careful in ways that had nothing to do with fear or safety. Instead, it had everything to do with shame. I carried it around like my purse or a backpack that was dragging me under. I thought I had to fix it before anyone could see my shame. But healing doesn't work like that. It doesn't happen in isolation. It doesn't grow in silence. And one day, not a perfect day, not a special day, just an ordinary day, it happened. I was tired of carrying something that was never mine to carry alone. I didn't have to carry it in secret, because what happened to me was not at all my fault. It was his. I told someone. My voice shook as my hands trembled, and even when I made a fist, I thought the words might break me. But they didn't. They did break the silence, though, and that changed everything. The moment I said it out loud, something shifted. Not all at once, not magically, but it was enough. Enough to realize I wasn't the only one. Because when I shared my story, someone else whispered, "Me too." And then another, and another, before reaching 31 million people. Suddenly, what I thought was just my pain became a thread, a lifeline that connected me to others like me, who had been carrying around their own stories in the dark too. That's when I understood something no one had told me before. My story didn't just belong to what happened to me. It belonged to what could happen after we face it head on. Healing, connection, breaking the silence. I used to think telling my story would make me relive it. And sometimes it does. But more than that, it helps me reclaim my voice each and every time. Because now when I speak, I'm not just remembering the moment I was attacked. I remember the moment I stood up, shared my truth, and survived. That I am still here, which means what happened to me did not get the final word. That honor belongs to me. And even though sharing my story didn't erase the pain, and it didn't undo the past, it did give me something extremely powerful. It gave me the chance to help someone breathe a little easier and feel a little less alone. It gives them the power to believe, maybe for the first time, that healing is possible. And that matters. Because this is how we begin to change things, by saying it out loud.
We will now welcome back to the stage Greta McLean to perform Ignore the Critics.
Ignore Your Critics by L.E. Ignore your critics. Yeah, I know. It isn't easy. But just ignore them anyway. We know who they are. The ones who believe they have the authority to set parameters and impose stereotypes. It's been their tactic since the dawn of time. Trying to put women in their place and feigning superiority. Their desperate need for control. Control over our bodies, our salaries, promotions, and much more. Which exposes their insecurity and their weakness. Consider their attempts to belittle us as a compliment. Because they are so threatened by the power of women, terrified of equality, of our power, our knowledge, and our skills, that they resort to childish practices, hurling insults and lies like soldiers hurl grenades. Yet we still stand firm. So ignore your critics. Embrace the powerful fire within us and allow it to smolder until it erupts, becoming our inspiration and inspiration for others. The scaffolding that keeps us strong. Let them see our strength, our power and our resilience. Let them envy our confidence, embracing the power of our womanhood, bringing new life into the world, and demanding respect. Respect for our humanity, for our courage and our dignity, as they continue to flop around in their fear, desperately trying to claim their superiority when we know better. Ignore your critics. Their false claims, their rants, their desperation. It is our fearlessness that strikes terror in their hearts, and their only defense is to twist facts and to lie, using the patriarchal system as their shield and sword, while legislating our behavior, stripping us of our rights, our right to equal pay for equal work, the right to live without violence, our right to bodily autonomy, as they desperately lean on false authority rather than acknowledging the basic truth that we are indeed all created equal, endowed with the same inalienable rights. So ignore your critics, because we have no such need to use trickery or deceit. No disguise, no treachery, because we are women. We are fearless, possessing the courage to be our authentic selves, to be vulnerable, to be our powerful selves. It is the fire within us that is our superpower. Embrace it. Nourish it, and ignore your critics.
All right. I'm going to welcome back to the stage Marlene Hall and Mark McCall to perform the play Facts Ignored.
just as you and many others like you feel a responsibility to speak up for what you believe in, I too feel the weight of that responsibility. I choose to use my voice, even when it felt like shouting into the void, because that is what democracy is all about. I appreciate you taking the time to see me. Representative Dawson, I'm here today to discuss the recent legislation regarding reproductive rights, specifically stripping the rights of life and liberty and forcing women who have become pregnant as a result of rape to carry the child to term.
I believe my stance on this matter is well known. My constituents have spoken, and we are a state that values the sanctity of life from conception.
Well, I understand that, Representative, but I want you to truly understand what that means in practice. Try to imagine for a moment the unimaginable trauma of rape, the violation, the loss of control, the profound physical and psychological damage. What would your reaction be if it were your wife, one of your daughters, or even your mother? While you think about that, imagine that trauma compounded by a forced pregnancy. Every bit of morning sickness, every kick, every moment of every single day for 9 months, a constant, visceral reminder of the worst thing that has ever happened to you. Tell me, Representative, how would you explain to your daughters why they must be repeatedly re-victimized moment after moment, day after day, if it happened to them?
I understand it's a difficult situation, truly. I do. But we must adhere to our moral compass, to our beliefs that all life is sacred.
What about the life of the woman? Her body autonomy, her mental health, her future? Surely after doing your research while drafting your legislation, you became aware that over 5.9 million women in the United States become pregnant due to being raped, and that most consider, attempt, or successfully commit suicide. Are these lives not sacred too? When you strip a woman of the right to make decisions about her own body, you strip her of her fundamental humanity. You are telling her that her suffering is less important than a theoretical future life.
My views and the views of the people I represent are based on deeply held biblical principles. We believe in compassion, yes, but also in the sanctity of life as ordained by God. There is no moral justification for ending a life.
Yet you have repeatedly said you support execution. And since you bring up biblical principles, I'd like to share with you one. Are you familiar with Numbers chapter 5, verses 14 through 27?
Yes, I am familiar with the scriptures.
Excellent. Because Numbers 5 speaks of a specific ritual. It describes a situation where a husband suspects his wife has been unfaithful, and to determine her guilt or innocence, the priest performs a ceremony. He puts dust from the tabernacle floor into holy water, adds bitter herbs, and makes the woman drink it. The text says that if she is guilty, her abdomen will swell and her thigh waste away, and she will become an object of cursing among her people. Now, this is widely interpreted by biblical scholars, even conservative ones, as a recipe to induce a miscarriage, To determine if a woman was unfaithful to her husband, ancient Israelite law prescribed a potion to terminate a potential pregnancy.
That is completely out of context. That's the Old Testament law, and we live under grace. You can't cherry pick your verses.
Well, neither can you, Representative. If your biblical principles are so absolute, how do you reconcile a passage that sanctions a procedure to end a potential pregnancy based on suspicion alone with your absolute prohibition against a woman making a choice about her own body, especially after an act of violent, non-consensual penetration? Where is the sanctity of life there?
This is an outrage. You are misrepresenting what we have stood for here.
There's no misrepresentation, Representative. I have my Bible right here, and all I'm asking is for you to apply your biblical principles consistently, to consider the lived reality of women, to recognize that when you deny a woman bodily autonomy, you deny her dignity, her agency, her very self. And when you claim it's for moral reasons, yet overlook passages that contradict your stance, it reveals not a moral compass, but a political agenda, thinly veiled in piety. The pain, Representative Dawson, is very real. The trauma is real. And the legal stripping of our fundamental rights is real. I hope you truly reflect on the consequences of the laws you champion, not just on what you choose to believe in and embrace, but what you choose to ignore out of convenience. Again, what if it was your loved one?
Please join me in welcoming back Sean Wenzel to perform In Plain Sight.
In Plain Sight by Anonymous 16. I stood nearby holding words that never seemed large enough. I watched her begin to disappear in plain sight. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, but her eyes kept traveling somewhere I could not follow. The coffee between us cooled untouched, as if even warmth felt like too much. She flinched at small sounds that used to make us laugh. I soon realized I was witnessing a battle with no visible enemy. Depression wrapped around her like a heavy winter coat that she couldn't take off. PTSD arrived without warning, loud and cruel, dragging her back into the night that she never chose. Some afternoons she'd stare at the wall as if it might answer the question she could not speak. Other days she moved too fast, cleaning, pacing, avoiding stillness at all costs. She told me sleep was a hallway with no doors or only echoes. Nightmares followed her into daylight, hiding in the hum of traffic and the slam of doors. I learned to lower my voice and announce my presence before entering the room. Even my footsteps felt like something that could hurt her. Helplessness settled in my chest like a stone I could not swallow. I wanted to fix it. To gather her shattered sense of safety in my hands and glue it whole again. Instead, I offered rides to therapy and silent company on long drives with no destination. Sometimes she cried without sound, tears slipping down as if they were embarrassed. Sometimes she felt nothing at all, and that frightened me even more. I quickly began to understand that love does not always know how to rescue. There were moments when hope flickered small as a match in the wind. She would tell a story from before, and for a second her voice sounded like herself again. Then the memory would bend and the light would dim. I smiled when she smiled, even if it lasted only a breath. Inside, I begged the world to give her back her laughter. I learned that being there meant a feeling of being useless. It meant sitting in silence without trying to feel it. It meant believing in her future on days she could not imagine one. I could not pull her out of the dark. But I could sit beside her in it. Sometimes when she squeezed my hand, I feel like maybe, just maybe, my presence is a form of hope that allows her to see a brighter tomorrow. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to welcome back Bethany Reynolds to perform her original song, Carry Me Higher.
I used to keep my head down, shrinking in a borrowed chair. Every you can't on a loop, like it hung in the air. But a little voice kept on knocking under all that doubt and shame, saying you were built for climbing, let them talk, you still remain. I'll bend, I'll break, I'll rise, you won't recognize me now. All that weight, it made me strong. I wear my scars like a crown. I walk through fire, I walk through fear. Still I am standing here. I'll bend, I'll break, I'll rise, and I'll carry me higher, higher. Well, they tried to write my story with their small and shaky hands. Told me that this was all there was. Be grateful where you land, but a heartbeat turned to thunder. Every no became a stare. Every door they slammed behind me just flew open, fresher air. I'll bend, I'll break, I'll rise. You won't recognize me now. All that weight, it made me strong. I wear my scars like a crown. I walk through fire, I walk through fear. Still I am standing here. I'll bend, I'll break, I'll rise, and I'll carry me higher, higher. This is for the quiet ones, shaking like the stake you claim. Every label they have thrown, you can turn into your name. Step by shaking step, love, you are so much more than tough. You are breath and bone and thunder. You are always, always enough. I'll bend, I'll break, I'll rise. You won't recognize me now. All that weight, it made me strong. I wear my scars like a crown. I walk through fire, I walk through fear. Still I am standing here. I'll bend, I'll break, I'll rise, and I'll carry me higher, higher. I'll bend, I'll break, I'll rise. You won't recognize me now. Every tear that hit the ground is like a forest in my mind. I walk through fire, I walk through fear. Still I am standing here. I'll bend, I'll break, I'll rise, and I'll carry me higher, higher.
All right. Y'all enjoyed that song? It sounded like y'all did. All right. So I want to welcome Marlene Hall back to the stage to perform Silent Cries.
Silent Cries by A.K. Beneath the weight of silent cries, a woman stood with weary eyes, bruised in body, mind, and soul. Yet deep within, there was a quiet goal. She carried wounds unseen and unheard in broken nights without a word. But from the darkness, something began to stir. A strength within that refused to blur. With trembling hands, she faced her pain and allowed the healing to fall like rain. Each scar had a story, fierce and true, a mark that said she made it through. Her spirit rose beyond the night, embracing dawn, reclaiming light. No longer prisoner to fear's grip, she found her voice, her power's tip. Through shattered past and teardrops fall, she built new bridges, broke the wall. A warrior's heart, both brave and kind, a soul restored, no longer blind. Now standing tall, she walks with grace, a beacon bright in life's embrace. Her journey marks a path to be free, a testimony to her victory.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to welcome Kathy Halbrooks to perform the monologue Innuendo.
This is an original piece I wrote based on a true experience. I am sitting by the pool under an umbrella reading a book by Thich Nhat Hanh. The water is bright with the sun's reflection. The friend with whom I came is lying covered in sunscreen on a lounge chair. The day is very hot. The man beside me is, I think, flirting. We are all naked. I am answering the man's questions politely, wanting but unable to tell him to leave me alone. He is unfailingly courteous while narrating to me stories about his recently dead wife, why I can't tell him to go away, and prostate trouble. We are both careful where we look. I can say with all truth that I am less uncomfortable than I would be fully clothed in a country music bar being hit on by a redneck cowboy. However, I did not come here to look for companionship. I am at the nudist resort, however corny it may sound, to get in touch with my body. I have, from the time I remember, being conscious of how I look, being critical of the cellulite on my thighs, the pooch of my belly, all my various imperfections that no matter how slender I've been or become again, do not go away. I've been told by too many men that I need to improve, being compared to too many unattainable ideals, read too many beauty articles in Tribe magazines, taken it all too seriously. Before we settle in at poolside, my friend and I walk into the woods around the resort. I concentrate on the smell of the trees, a brush of leaf against my rib cage, the crunch of the ground beneath my well-worn tennis shoes. Why detail these old familiar battered shoes that I normally wear on evening walks around my neighborhood could tell the young mothers pushing fat babies in fancy strollers, or the handsome young college men with their abs of steel bounding by. But the shoes, like good friends, will keep the secret of my out-of-character visit. I am startled to come across a memorial to a young man who has died a premature death, the cause of which is not mentioned. His parents have left a portrait, a headshot, along with possessions that must have been precious to him throughout his short life. A small stuffed bear, a beaded bracelet, keys to a car. In the picture, he looks to be about 21. I'm reminded again and again that this is a family resort. There are strict rules against bad behavior, especially unwanted sexual conduct. Still, I get the feeling that the midnight hot tub get-togethers the man sitting beside me is now talking about are not totally devoid of innuendo and more. I am told upon checking in that I should complain to management if anyone bothers me, and he will be told to leave. A mark will be made against him, and his future actions will be observed. But this man is only hinting, never crossing that invisible arbitrary line, and he has been quick to let me know his physical prowess is limited not only by prostate trouble, but by diabetes. He is much older than he looks, and I think he is more lonely than lecherous. My friend and I have driven over 150 miles to be here. When time comes that we have to leave, I choose an interval when the man goes inside to get something to drink and cool off. She and I stand under the outdoor shower, soaping ourselves, shampooing our hair. The warm water over my bare skin feels wonderful. I finally get the feeling I've looked for. I am not thinking of how I look to the people around me, how I don't measure up, only about how the tepid drops slither down my neck, over my stomach, tickling my knees, teasing my toes. I look forward to stopping at the roadside market we passed on the way to get a strawberry ice cream cone. Double scoops. I feel sensuous, like the whole world is my lover. A black and white photograph that I bought in Savannah hangs on my wall at home. A lovely young woman lies naked on top of a mausoleum in one of the local cemeteries. Is she dead or only asleep? People react somewhat badly to this photo. It makes him uncomfortable in some way or several. Still, I do not take it down. In its stark representation, there is life and death, beauty and decay, shadows and illumination, dusk and dawn. I think of the photo as the water runs down my body into the red earth. There is a word that is defined as a bold contrast between light and dark. Its etymology is Italian, chiaroscuro. The sound of it has always made me want to sing.
Thank you, Kathy. So we'll welcome back to the stage Bethany Reynolds to perform a poem called Beacon of Light.
Beacon of Light by K.A. In the halls of justice, a voice rings clear for broken hearts and silenced fear. An advocate stands with strength untold for stories whispered, brave and bold. Against the odds, she bravely pleads for justice sown from healing seeds. With words as weapons sharp and true, she fights for hope for me and for you. Against the tide, she bravely fights for justice sought, a beacon of light. To mend the wounds so the scars may heal, she's a champion true with a heart of steel. Against the odds, she bravely pleads for justice sown from the cruelest seed, standing firm in her fight so all may see a courage that inspires and sets us free. With each battle won, she shines ever bright, guiding victims toward the light. With a warrior spirit, bold and free, she stands for all, so all may live in dignity. For those who have suffered and lost their way, she brings them hope, a brighter day. A warrior fierce, with truth as her guide. For survivors' rights, she stands with pride.
Next up, we'll have Greta McLean, who will perform the monologue, I Spoke My Truth.
They said it didn't happen. Said my voice was too steady. My pain wasn't arranged in the right kind of order. A report was filed, a shrug given, a door quietly closed. But I would not allow my truth to disappear, to just let it be ignored, even when my hands and voice trembled. I gathered myself, not all at once, not perfectly, but piece by piece. I learned the language of persistence. I spoke in documents, in dates, and in evidence they could not dismiss. I walked into rooms where eyes questioned before I even spoke. But I did speak. I spoke again and again and again. They tried to tire me, to bury my truth beneath process and paperwork, to make me feel small enough to give up. But I am persistent. I am a survivor. Their disbelief was not stronger than my thirst for justice. Time passed, Pressure built. But my truth, the truth was unyielding. A crack in the story, a missed detail, a piece of evidence that refused to stay hidden. The one that broke open their silence, where the weight shifted and truth stood still. They found him. The DNA matched. And he was found guilty. He was held accountable because I dared to share my pain and my truth, a truth that was impossible to ignore. And I will never be dismissed again.
Thank you, Greta. Coming next to the stage, let's welcome back Beth McCall to perform Not Today.
Not Today by P. I've always had a fondness for things that linger. Unfinished sentences, cups left cooling on the table, the way a memory continues to stay no matter how hard they try to erase it. I sit and stare, watching time seemingly stuck, like a watch that needs a new battery. I lean against the window as my reflection asks questions I don't answer. My voice shouts only silence, loud enough to fill the room. I'm a sinking shipwreck. It's not sudden, not violent, just a private agreement between me and the water and the wounds that keep changing to different colors. And the fog in my mind screaming, learn how to float. The rustling leaves speak to me, words I can't bring myself to speak. Still alive as the ache consumes me. Proof that falling is not the end. Do I try again, or do I submit to survival? The roar within my head says, do it. I hesitate as I take a step backwards. No, not today.
Please welcome Ron Duplessis, Kathy Hallbrooks, Marlene Hall, and Sean Witzel to perform the play The Conversation, or The Confrontation, sorry.
And that's why our work here, creating spaces where survivors feel seen, heard, and believed, is so vital. It's about dismantling the myths, shattering the silence, and building a future where no one has to carry this burden alone. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. You talk about shattering silence and dismantling myths, but isn't some of this on the victim too?
I'm not sure what you're trying to ask, Maria.
What were you wearing? Where were you going at that hour? Did you lead him on?
You've got to be kidding. How can you sit here and say it's the victim's fault?
Maria, those questions are precisely the myths we are here to dismantle. The responsibility for sexual assault lies solely and unequivocally with the perpetrator. There's nothing a person can wear, say, or do that justifies violence.
But it's common sense. If you put yourself in certain situations, you're asking for trouble. A woman needs to be careful.
And if it was your daughter, Maria, or your sister, would you ask her what she did to deserve it? Would you blame her for someone else's crime?
That's different. My family, they're respectable. They wouldn't.
It wouldn't be different. It would still be a horrific crime. And your first instinct, I hope, would be compassion, not accusation.
Victim blaming is a defense mechanism. It allows people to believe that just by following the rules, they're going to be safe. But the truth is, assault is about power and control, not desire or provocation. It can happen to anyone, anywhere, and sadly, it does happen anywhere and everywhere. To anyone.
It's just about taking personal responsibility for
Yes,
our.
yes, it's about taking responsibility. It's about the rapist taking responsibility for their actions and the lifelong trauma it leads. It's about taking the time to learn the facts.
No. No.
And what would you know about it? You've been quiet this whole time.
I know because it happened to me. I was walking home from work. It was fairly dark. I wasn't asking for it, and I wasn't doing anything wrong, and he still took everything. For years, I blamed myself, wondering what I could have done differently. But Sarah's right. It wasn't my fault. He made the choice. He's the one to blame.
Lena, you are incredibly brave. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
It's so hard to say, but you made me feel like maybe I don't have to be quiet anymore.
No, you don't. None of us do.
Renowned criminologist Frida Adler was correct when she said, "Rape is the only crime in which the victim becomes the accused."
Okay, so let's welcome back to the stage Allison Blackwell to perform Still Here.
This is Still Here by Anonymous 46. I wake with the I wake with the weight of a question in my chest. Morning light reaches through the curtains as if nothing in the world has changed. But everything Everything has changed. I keep replaying that night like a song that refuses to end. Fragments of sound, a hand pressing over my mouth, nearly suffocating me. It was the moment my voice disappeared. People say time heals all wounds, that healing is inevitable, like rain finally falling after a drought. But today, my heart feels like dry earth that doesn't know how to bloom again. I wonder where my strength went. Was it taken forever? Or is it hiding somewhere inside me, so deep I cannot find it? I keep waiting for the day I remember to breathe without fear. Some days I feel anger rising in my throat. Other days I feel absolutely nothing at all. Just quiet, lonely spaces, places where my laughter used to live. But somewhere beneath the pain and confusion, a small, stubborn truth remains. What happened to me is not the entire story of who I am. I'm still here. I haven't given up. I'm still breathing. I'm still learning the language of my own courage. Perhaps healing isn't about forgetting that night. Maybe it's about slowly teaching my heart that the morning belongs to me.
I will welcome back to the stage Marlene Hall, who will perform Ever Bright.
Ever Bright by Anonymous 3. In shadows deep where silence grew, a woman stood, her strength anew, bruised but unbroken, scars like art, a testament of a healing heart. She faced the night so dark, so long, yet found inside a quiet song. She bore the weight of darkest night, yet found within a flickering light. From pain and fear, she forged a way to greet the dawn of a brighter day. Though trembling hands once held her tight, she stepped into the morning bright. Each step she took reclaimed her voice. She rose above. She made her choice. The courage buried deep inside no longer forced her to run or hide. Her spirit burned, a fierce flame bright, turning sorrow into might. The wounds may fade, but stories stay, a map of trials that shaped her way. In every scar, a truth she wears, a strength born from her silent prayers. She walks now tall, her head held high, a phoenix soaring the sky. No longer bound by chains unseen, she moves with power fierce and keen. Her past a chapter, not her fate. She carries love to recreate. A woman healed, a soul set free, her strength a light for all to see. With every breath, she claims her space in life's vast dance. She finds her grace. From shattered pain to vibrant whole, she mends the pieces of her soul. Her journey tells of hope and fight, a woman shining ever bright.
All right, thank you, Marlene. So we have an additional piece. This is not in the program, but we're going to welcome Lisa Inohos, who will read the poem, The Soaring Spirit.
Soaring Spirit by BK. The world went dark, a brutal night, my essence torn, bereft of light. A theft of self, a chilling shame, left in silence, whispering a lost name. An anchor chained me to the ground, a breath that's shallow, a desperate sound. Each dawn a blur, a hollow ache, a soul shattered, yet refusing to break. And from the depths, a tremor rose, a flicker sparked an ember glow. A silent roar, I will not yield against the dark my fate unsealed. Slowly, painstakingly, I clawed my way through muddy grief, through endless gray, each fractured piece a lesson learned, a fragile strength, a fire that burned. And then, one day, I felt the call to stretch beyond my self-imposed wall. My spirit grew a feathered bird, prepared to claim my story and be heard. I launched myself on currents vast, the shadows of the night has passed. An eagle now, with fearless eyes, claiming my freedom in the skies. No longer tethered, scarred, or weak, I choose to rise, I chose to speak. The wind my guide, the sun my friend, a new life now will now begin. The scars remain, a map of grace, not shame. I am the survivor. I share my flame. My stolen past can't touch my soul, for I choose to climb out of the hole.
Thank you, Lisa. So our final performance of the evening will come from Greta McLean, who will perform Warrior.
I used to think strength looked like silence, like holding your breath long enough and hoping the rest of the world would forget what happened, like shrinking myself into something small, unnoticeable, something untouched, something clean. I thought if I could just disappear inside my own skin, I could outrun the memory. I was wrong, but I refused to give up. I didn't become a warrior the night everything was taken from me. Instead, my identity became what happened to me, how he tried to strip me of my identity, of my humanity, and my self-worth. I was convinced that I was broken, that I was powerless, that I ever could heal, and convinced my story ended in that moment. But a warrior is not defined by the battles they did not choose, by the valiant fights that are not won. A warrior is defined by the ground they refuse to surrender. I admit there were days I could barely stand, days when the weight of it all pressed so hard against my chest I thought it might collapse. But even then, especially then, something in me refused to stay in the dark. A flicker, a spark, a voice that whispered, "Get up!" I did. I got up again and again and again. Healing is never a straight path. It's a battlefield. Some days I carried a sword, and other days I crawled on my hands and knees while wondering why I was even bothering. Some days I roared, Other days I could only whisper. My own name sound foreign to me. But I am still here, stronger than I ever dreamed possible. And now I stand not just for myself, but for every woman who feels like her voice has been stolen, like her strength is buried, and her story rewritten without her consent. I was you, and I need you to hear this. What happened to you is not the end of your story. It is not your identity. It is not your defeat. There is a warrior inside you. Even if she's bruised, even if she's exhausted, even if she's been silent for a long time. I speak for the woman I used to be, the one who couldn't speak. I speak for the ones who still can't. I stand in rooms where the silence used to suffocate me, and I break it open. I reach back into the darkness and say, take my hand. You don't have to stay here. You can use your voice to speak for others, because that is what true warriors do.
I'm gonna before we get to closing remarks, I'm going to invite Marlene up for a second, and I'm going to invite Greta to the stage, back to the stage.
As you reminded us earlier, over 10,000 people have been helped by Silent No Longer. And everyone knows that you have played an integral, if not sole, function in that, and you have made a huge difference to people's lives. Obviously, to the survivors who have contributed to tonight's show, and we pay homage to them. But we can't forget you, because you made it possible for them to speak out. And you have given us words of wisdom and have helped us see what we need to do to better help too. And we just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
All right. So we want to thank you all for being here and your involvement. Thank you for your support of Silent No Longer Tennessee. Your generosity allows us to provide our clients with trauma-informed workshops so they can process their trauma through both written word, such as what you heard this evening, as well as visual art, which you can see outside. Thank you to our sponsors, Metro Arts, JMAX Marketing and Organization, South Mentor Presbyterian Church, and the Temple Nashville. We also want to thank all of our wonderful volunteers who made tonight possible. As I announce your names, please join us on stage. And so we have Allison Blackwell, we have Ryan Duplessis, we have Kathy Howell Brooks, Lisa Nojos, Marlene Hall, Jean Maxwell, Beth McCall, Mark McCall, Emily McCluskey, Kent McCluskey, Bethany Reynolds, Sharondia Sullivan, and Jane Town. Thank you all.